Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, welcome back to Train Simulator 2021, and welcome back to the Modernizing Donner Pass series. I feel like I say this every episode, but it's been a long time since the last one, and that's just because obviously YouTube is not my main job. I do have a lot of other things going on outside of making YouTube videos, but in my mind I do have an idea of how I'm going to get back into kind of a regular uploading process and get more content out for you guys. It was actually brought up recently in the unofficial Train Simulator Discord community, which I highly suggest you guys follow and join me in there. I'll probably have a link in the description for it and such, where you can hang out and just talk Train Simulator stuff and other general things as well. But it seems like a lot of you guys are still interested in this series, and you know, and I think the idea behind doing this route building is inspiring a lot of you guys to be making routes and such. So that's encouraging to see, and I know there's still a lot of people out there making comments on past videos on improvements that I could do, and kind of putting some stuff out there to help me get better at route building, and I'll actually talk about one of those things in this episode. So yeah, this is episode 14, I believe. The last one was episode 13, which has been a hot minute. But from what I can recall, oh, and yes, I'm doing this live. There's no speed build today. It's just Matt talking over everything. So I'm just gonna kind of show you guys what I've been working on, and kind of do some building here while we're sitting down. But yeah, episode 13 was starting to lay track west of Reno, so we're looking towards the east of Reno, and that's laying track this way. And we started with, I think, track right at about this point here. We started around this curve, which on Google Maps is called West Reno, and just working our way west through Verde and a little town called Floreston, I believe. I'm gonna have to click out and look at Google Maps again. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Floreston is what it's called. So that's kind of what I was working on last time, and I've actually had to scrap a lot of it. The main reason was I wasn't too happy with some of the gradients that I was doing, but the big thing being the super elevation. And so the issue I had in episode 13 was what I was doing, and I can just show you guys right here while we're at it. So if we take track, let's try the track we were working on. Actually, I need to experiment with the concrete track, because I know at some point a lot of this track becomes concrete closer up towards the summit. So let's use just the generic, actually probably that one, because that will probably have the let's see, they'll have the gravel underlay. So, and I'll keep it at a 0% incline. So the issue I was having before was, let's lay track out here. So, you know, this is how you lay your track. You choose your track asset over here, and you start by just clicking down on the map, and you can draw a straight section of rail, you can draw curved sections, completely up to you. So we can start by doing a straight section and then a curved section there. Oops, we're kind of going into the ground over there. That's fine. So yeah, so that's how I was laying track previously. And the issue I was having was if you use the embankment tool, so let's say I want to embank this corner. If I click that right there, you'll notice that right at the corner, at the radius break, there's a hump that you see here. So here's the flat track, and then here's the track getting into that curve. This is actually a lot worse than what normally happens. Usually the tracks just split off. So if I split it, oh, the embankment went away. Let's see. Actually, I probably should have just clicked that rail. Yeah, there we go. That's what it normally looks like. So the rail is split like that. And I know in other routes, it's not common in many routes in Train Simulator, but a lot of routes they're able to get this transition smooth. And so I was very confused on how that worked. And it wasn't until someone in the description, or not the description, in the comments, what is YouTube? In the comments of episode 13, they were talking about this tool down here in the bottom left called the Easement Tool. And this fixes that issue. Well, I say fixes. It correctly lays track down so you can do a smooth super elevation gradient, but you have to basically start over again. So you can't just highlight track and use the easement tool and whatever and make it work. So actually, let me weld that back together. That's really annoying me. There we go. So how the easement tool works is, you can see I have it clicked down here in the bottom left. It's called easement. So if I grab that same track again, and we'll go over here, and you'll notice as soon as I start clicking down to lay track, it's very different. And I don't know how hard it's going to be to see that. I might try to change when I go to edit after the fact, change the exposure levels a bit so you can see. It's probably actually better that we're on this kind of sandy area here. But you can see how there's like a guide for different tracks. You still have that yellow, which means you're on a straight section track, right? So let's just lay a straight section right here. Okay, you notice how you have two curved bits. So you can either go to the left, to the right, or you can go straight. And notice how as I go along the left, there's even more radius markings. So the biggest radius marking I want you guys to see is that very long gray one that's off into the distance out here. And so you can choose either the tightest radius, which is all the way to the left here, or you can choose a somewhat middle radius. So let's choose something right about there. There we go. And so what happens is, notice how it put this small section here. It's a very small radius section, and we can continue that radius. We can either follow the gray, or we can go tighter. So let's go ahead and follow the gray for a little bit. Let's go here. And let's say we want to straighten out. So now you can either go further to the left, or we can go more straight. And notice, I'll look at that. You see there's over here, you're going to see that original section here, this original radius map, either left, right, or center. So if we unclick there, so let's go to the right, we'll see that pop up, and then we have the yellow straight section here. So basically what this is doing, so if we take a look here at this section, we have the straight bit here, right? And then it goes into an immediate curved section. Well, what the easement tool does is it goes from the straight section, and it's gonna be hard to see just because we're using the concrete rails. That was probably a bad example. So right here is where the break is. And notice on the bottom right here, you see you'll have network length, gradient, and height or whatever. And since this is a straight section, there's no radius curve or anything. So we have this, and you can see that here on this rail. We have that. If we go to this rail over here, you'll see it immediately shows, look at that. There's a radius, or the curvature of the radius, which is 846.7 degrees, I'd presume is what that is. But if we go to the next section, so we have the straight section down here, and right here, so there's the break. Here's the straight section. The break's right here. Notice how on this section here, length of radius. Oh, am I clicking on the wrong rail? Oh, I am. I'm a little bit far. Okay, here we go. Never mind. Here's this. No, that's not the straight section either. Where's the straight section? Here's the straight section. Straight section's right here. Okay. And if I move my cursor to the next, well, that's still giving me a radius number. But you actually see it on this bit of track right over here. And if I highlight that, look at where it says radius of curvature. It's telling me 1 point and then the money symbol. So there's like an error, I think is what it's called, or something. But what's happening is that it's not a constant radius. See, notice how right at the end here, it's straightening out. It straightens out there, and then as we get closer to the curve, it starts to curve in a little bit more. So that's what the easement tool does. The easement tool brings a radius and straightens it out. And so that means if we highlight all this rail, and we use the super elevation tool, which is right here, you're going to notice how we don't have that break in the rails. We now have a nice smooth lead up into super elevation. And you can tell this is super elevated as well. So it's not broken like it is out here. So that's what someone taught me in the comments, and you can clearly see how how that changes track laying completely. I mean, now you have to deal with having to stick to a defined like radius distance here. So like I said, that completely changes how you lay track. So if I delete this and let's save, because you have to do that, hitting F2. So after episode 13, I saw that in the comments section, and pretty much everything from here on to where I finished, I redid. I deleted all of it and started over again using the Easement Tool. So that means if you take a look at all this track here, now we have super elevation. And that's going to be really big for this route, because especially with how windy this route is, how many very tight radiuses there are, and even the track speed, even though the track speed may not be that quick, I think standard track speed along this route kind of averages around 30 miles per hour. Some places it goes down to 25, others it gets closer to 40. Some of those speeds shouldn't matter because we're super elevated. And you can easily tell from these assets here, you can kind of see that extra gravel skirt on this one here, and kind of in the inside there, it's a bit lower. So I basically redid it with that, updated tool with the Easement Tool and such. Kind of reprofiled some of the grades in some of these areas. And you can see over here, I started kind of recoloring the ground and such. Reprofiled everything through here. And the other thing is that the gradients for me are very hard to model. I've been trying to use Google Street View to get an idea of what the gradient should be in some areas, but it's kind of hard to judge. There's also a link in probably the description. There's a video I've been using of a backwards cab ride that someone put a GoPro, I think, in the back of an Amtrak train or something, or their video camera. And I've been using that as well, but that's kind of hard to judge the gradient levels and such. And I want to know your guys' thoughts on the comments below, because I just recently downloaded the Tehachapi, is that how you pronounce it? The Tehachapi Pass route. And there's a lot of places in that route where it jumps from like 0% gradients to 2.2% gradients back to 0% gradients. And I feel like that's kind of unnatural for railroads to be doing that. I mean, it's not unnatural that gradients change, but for a gradient to be perfectly flat and then go up a certain percent. So like a lot of this grade is like, you can see over here we have like 8%, here there's like 0.4%, but this is a weird area because the grades just kind of fluctuate through this area. And I think over here it turns into like 1.1%. I think right here, I know I was testing track through here. Yeah, 1.1%. I think average percentage on Donner Pass is 2%, but that's not until we get closer to the summit. So I'm not even going to worry about trying to smooth out the gradient then, because the gradient, by that point is going to be all over the place. But you can tell even in this area how I did a lot of track grazing. I mean, I think right here was the original track surface, one of these areas here. So you can tell I've raised a lot. There's been a lot of, gradual changes. This is a good example too, where you have Interstate 80 crossing over the tracks. If you look at that backwards cab view on that Amtrak train, this bridge is pretty standard, pretty low to the tracks. And in the generic default route, this bridge is pretty high up in the air. So it might be partially, might have to terraform this mountain down a little bit, get I-80 to stay pretty level. I think whatever the height is there is fairly realistic. But, I'm trying to do my best to make the gradients easier, so the experience of taking trains on here is a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. But it's also, like I said, somewhat closer to real life and such. So that's why you see pretty much everything is deleted. The highway's deleted. I even redid the river. I redid the Truckee River up till a part, and you'll see it. Here's one of the nicer things I did that you didn't see in the last video, was detailing this bridge here as the rails go over the Truckee River. In real life, the south side track is actually a bit higher up in the air. But again, using the easement tool is kind of tough in that regard. So I didn't bother with any different grade changes, but it took a lot of props and such to get this bridge to look somewhat realistic to the real life bridge. And that's one thing I have an issue with. There's not too many good bridge props or splines at all with the routes that I'm using. So I think I did the best I could with what I had here. Even have a little detail from the Railworks Community Asset Pack, the no trespassing for Union Pacific Railroad. So my nice small little Easter egg details there, even though I spoiled the Easter egg, but there'll be small things like that. But yeah, you can even see, you know, profiling the grades. The river obviously has been reprofiled. The river is probably the toughest thing to profile. And you can even tell where the rails are completely different. So you can see how the rail map here, the rails used to go that way. And here's where my rails are. And then if we take a look at the overlay, you can see actually the rails are way more over. It's much tighter radius here. So I had to kind of go in between from what Google Maps showed and what the original Donner Pass route had. So I think the original route, like I said, I don't know if that easement tool was a thing then. So like trying to just smooth grades out and place rails wherever was just kind of what they need to do. But you know, you can see in areas like this, you have super elevation. Is this the, no, okay. I think I'm gonna permanently use that extra skirt track because that's gonna be helpful in scenarios like this. But yeah, super elevated through here. And like I said, that should help the experience. That consist you saw back there, I did test a few of this and I felt like the experience was much better, like that weight G-force distribution gauge on the HUD seemed to be fairly centered. So that was a nice experience to see. But yeah, you get into here where the rails get into two different levels. And this is a weird area where the tracks, I think, took such a huge grade up and then they stopped. Like all of this down here, I think the original tracks were like up here. So you can see I've had to terraform down a little bit to get into, be able to see the tracks through here. And then it actually becomes the opposite down here. Some of you guys might remember this, but you can see the rails were in a different path. But like down in this valley in this cut was where this north side track used to be. So that's how big, they used to be down there. They were actually lower than the river was detailed. So this is a lot higher, especially with this little town. So this is the Floreston town or village or whatever. And even when you're in street view right here on Interstate 80, it doesn't really seem like we're really that deep into the valley. So, I raised it a lot here and you guys will see, did I? Okay. And you guys will see up here, and here's where track comes back up. This was a failed attempt at a recording of the video earlier. But you'll see here, as we go up. So now we're kind of like level with, or just a little bit lower than where the highway is. The highway is actually higher, but even when you are on street view, it doesn't seem like you're that low compared to the valley. And even at this point here, it doesn't seem like we're that deep into the valley here. So you can see the grade change is by that much. I mean, I could probably pull up a building here. Yeah, there's the El Dorado Hotel. So just get an idea of the gradient change. This is the base of it here, and that's a couple stories if this building is pretty accurate. So, yeah, it's a huge gradient change. So I don't really know if like I said, I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, just because, like I said, I know Donner Pass has, constant elevation changes, but at the same time, like, I think at this part here, the rails were at like 0% of incline, and I just don't think that's that realistic. Like, I think there's still a little bit of an incline, going up. So if I feel that this is a bit too high, I think this rail currently sits at 0.2%. So I might keep it at 0.2% until we go further this way. and such. You know, like I said, even this here, I think when you look at that cab view, it just doesn't seem like you're that deep into the valley. You're still kind of like high up through it. And I think most of this here, let's see what's this grade. This is about 1.1%. And I think just around the corner here, we're still at 1.1%. And I think around this curve, 0%. Like, I get that rails fluctuate. Let's see where that gradient changes. So that's still 0%. That's 0.8%. Okay, so there's a gradient change. So you can see it right over here. Yeah, you can kind of tell. There's the gradient change. So, like I said, I know that, you know, it's not uncommon that the rails are always changing, but I do feel that in some places it's just not that realistic. Like I think here, trying to recall this bridge and such, I think the rail height through here was good. I know as we go through here, yeah, I think that like this right here, what's this grade? That's 1.1, yeah, but I think prior to it, you know, the grade could be a little bit higher up. Like I don't think that bridge is that, this is Interstate 80 again crossing over. I don't think that valley cut is that big. You know, we're gonna move further on this way. We have this little stretch here. I do remember that I think the rails here are actually higher than I-80. So there's an example where, you know, the rails still seem pretty low into the valley. And even right here where I-80 crosses over, I don't think the rails are that low to the ground. And, you know, we wind through a little bit more through here. And we eventually come up to Truckee, which is, you know, gonna be the next stop. Excuse me, voice crack, boy, talking 25 minutes straight. You know, here we get to Truckee, 1.1% grade, 0.8, and then it flattens out. Yeah, 0%. And I think Truckee, I don't know, Truckee might be this flat. But my problem is when we get to right here, and if you go to this road in Truckee, so I think it's the only crossing in Truckee. Yeah, it's the only crossing gate, because there's actually a road that goes under, further down, a couple places. But if you go here to Street View, and you look this way, look at how much of a grade change there is. That goes up to, what is that grade? That's 2.3%. That is a sickening grade. I mean, I know the Donner grade is at like 2% or something like that. But if you go here in a Street View, you don't see a change in grade here. It's actually fairly level and straightforward. Like I said, we're going from a 0% to 2.3. And like I said, I know and I've seen a grade map somewhere of Donner Pass, and I know you get to a 2% grade, and that happens, but I feel like the rails just don't flatten out like that. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, especially if you guys live in the area. Please tell me in the comments below. I know there's plenty of you who I've even talked to and or just replying in the comments saying I'd like some pictures and stuff, and I'll probably make a video asking for reference pictures and stuff. But I want to know what you guys' thoughts are on the gradients and such. Like, I do know gradients change. You know, you might go from like 1% to 1.8 to 0.7%. But is the track gradient really like 0% to 2.3 in the matter of like 5 boxcar lengths? Like I said, I really don't think it's like that. I mean, even when you get this far, I think even at this point here, the rails seem fairly level with like this road and, like I said, I-80 here in the background. And, you know, like I trust the fact that the grade changes a lot. Like even right here, I think where this bridge and where that road is fairly realistic. And I know when you go to Street View here, yeah, you can tell there's a lot of grade on that. So this area might be at that grade. I mean, this is at 2.3. Maybe it's more of 2%. It may not be 2.3, because the more you go down this way, so the more we go west, at some point, all right, there's 1.4. Oh, look at that. We go from, so we're going from 2.3. And right here at this signal bridge, and look at that. You see, so what I'm doing is, if you haven't followed already, as I'm moving my mouse, the gradient in the bottom bottom here tells us the gradient percentage. So gradient and then whatever percent. And you can see, boom, by that curve right there, we're at 0%. So we should be able to see it over here. I just don't think it does that. I mean, look at how much of a dip that is. Like, even when you're on that cab ride, it's just, yeah, like that's, I don't think so. Yeah, like I think that's more like 2%, and then it probably goes to like 0.5 or something going over 0.2. So, yeah, I mean, look at how severe that is. Like, even in that cab ride video, I didn't see grade changes that big. So, how should I put it? Let me know in the comments if you think I should keep the same drastic grade changes, or if I should kind of smooth it out like I've been doing, where I still have those grade changes, but it's not as ridiculous as this is. Like, even right here in Truckee, I don't think it, like I said, there's not a dip right here. It's fairly higher. So, and like I said, that, you know, this route is pre-Dovetail Games days. This was Microsoft days. So yeah, like, let me know in the comments what you guys think. You know, if you guys think I should just keep doing what I'm doing and do the best I can to kind of judge and reprofile some of these grades. Obviously, the Easement Tool was a big thing, and I know someone just recently, as I'm recording this, made a comment about the grade stuff. So put in the comments what you think will help me in the build process. And yeah, hopefully you guys will see a speed build very shortly. So yeah, so it's a little bit of a different video today. Just kind of showing you guys, you know, why it's been a while. But yeah, I've made a lot of progress since then, and hopefully a little bit tonight and throughout the week, I'll get more done, and hopefully the next video will be a speed build video, hopefully finishing up in Truckee. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like I said, this has been a raw 30-minute video. My voice is raw, or my throat is raw, that's for sure. So I do thank you guys for following along with the series. Obviously, if you're new, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more Train Sim stuff. I'm trying to balance out more building stuff as well as doing some more scenarios over Train Sim World and Train Simulator. Obviously, I have the Hachi Pass, as I just mentioned. So if you guys want to see some videos on that, let me know in the comments. And with that, that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys again for following along. Be sure to follow along with the join me in the Discord channel that I'm a part of. You can join a lot of people who like playing train sims. You can ask me questions, ask community questions, share your videos, your screenshots, whatever you want to do. But for now, though, that's going to be it for me. Again, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.